This gun was graciously provided by airsplat.com. If you want to know where to purchase this product for yourself, check the direct link down below in the video information. Hey guys, Jarek here, and welcome to my review of the KWC Colt 1911.
We have taken our hits from the Japs, but here we are, still standing. If this area falls, then the next island falls. After that, Australia falls, and after that, America! Do you want these bastards crawling all over the West Coast? Let's get out there and stop them right here!
Development for the 1911 started in the early 1900s by the mastermind John Browning himself. At the time, America was looking to replace their Colt M1892 revolver, which fired the .38 long Colt round. They found that this round wasn't powerful enough, and they wanted an automatic in .45 ACP. This led to trials held by the US in the early 1900s. 6 designs were submitted, though by the end, only 2 remained, a Colt and a Savage design. On the last test at the end of 1910, 6,000 rounds were fired from a pistol over the course of 2 days. When the gun began to grow hot, it was simply immersed in water to cool it down. The Colt passed with no reported malfunctions, while the Savage design had 37. Following its success in the trials, the Colt pistol was formally adopted by the American military on March 29, 1911, which is where the name, the M1911, or the Model 1911, came from. Since its adoption, the 1911 has played a very significant role in the world's history. It was used by America in the Philippine-American War, World War I, World War II, the Korean War, and the Vietnam War. It was in service from 1911 to 1985, though many different 1911 variants are still being used by American forces and police units. In World War I and World War II, it was very common to see the 1911 in the hands of someone that wasn't on the American side. It was a very sought-after pistol and the most revolutionary of its time. It certainly was more reliable than the German Luger or the Japanese Nambu. Many other countries have used the 1911 other than the ones I've already listed. I'm going to give you the names of a few that have used or still use the 1911. Argentina, Denmark, Bangladesh, Belgium, Brazil, Bolivia, Canada, China, Colombia, Costa Rica, the Dominican Republic, East Timor, Ecuador, Finland, Fiji. You get the idea. The list just continues to go on for far longer than I can tell you. This gun has played a huge, significant role in the world's history. Over 100 years have passed, and this gun is still extremely commonly used. John Browning's legacy will live on in the 1911 for the foreseeable future.
See you, little bastard! There goes another one!
When you get your KWC 1911, it'll come in a standard cardboard box. Thankfully it doesn't have the flaky, terrible styrofoam, but it is just a cardboard box. You can use it to transport your gun to and from games, but I would recommend getting a higher quality gun case. Inside of the box is your warranty page, which I recommend you keep, an instruction manual, which is kind of very limited and not very useful, a box of BBs that really aren't of very good quality, an Allen wrench key for inserting your CO2, and your 1911 with a magazine. It is difficult to describe the quality of this gun. Aside from the side panel ABS plastic grips, the entire gun is made of metal. I feel like this gun could easily withstand the abuse of the most clumsiest of airsoft players, and it would continue to work. The trades, unfortunately, are just of white paint. They're not properly engraved onto the slide, although I can't bring myself to say I hate them. They do definitely give a distinct look to this gun, and they are proper authentic trademarks. The trademarks on the other side are a little bit less authentic, but overall I give this gun a 9 out of 10 for external aesthetics. It does a very good job replicating the M1911 A1 design, and looks very pleasing to the eye. The best thing about this gun is the incredible amount of recoil it has for an airsoft gun. It's quite easily the hardest kicking 1911 out on the airsoft market. The recoil spring is incredibly stiff, it uses CO2, and the slide is incredibly thick. If I had to give you a comparison, I would say this recoil is just a little bit more than your standard 22. That doesn't sound like much, but when it comes to an airsoft gun, it's far more than what you'd usually see, especially with the thin 1911 design. You can even just hear it when you let the slide snap forward. It gives a very loud, distinct metallic clank. The rest of this gun functions like your standard 1911. A thumb safety on the back of the slide that locks the trigger, and a ducktail safety on the back of the grip that prevents you from firing. Similarly, this gun disassembles just like your standard 1911. Eject the magazine, pull the slide back a little bit, pop out your slide release, and the upper receiver comes off the lower receiver. From here you can get to anything you'd please. This is also where you access your hop-up unit. The hop-up unit is very similar to that of a Tokimori designed hop-up unit. It's just a wheel on top of the barrel. This hop-up unit is extremely effective and can easily compete with the Tokimori hop-up unit, which is not something that you can say very often. At 150 feet away, I was able to hit a headshot target 9 out of 10 times. If I was to step back even farther, I could still hit that target. This thing is an incredibly competent backup pistol for woodland games. To put the upper back on the lower receiver, just do everything in reverse order. The sights are your standard M1911A1 styled sights, meaning they're part of the slide, which means you can't adjust them. This is a little bit disappointing, but to be expected from this design of a 1911. My gun was shooting exactly where the sights were pointing, so it wasn't a big deal for me, but note that your gun may not be shooting where your sights are pointing because of this. Although I've yet to see that actually be a problem, it is a possibility. Overall, the sights are fairly crude, but they get the job done fairly well. This gun's magazine is of engineering genius. KWC managed to fit a full 12-gram CO2 capsule into a thin 1911 magazine by completely eliminating the side panels of the mag. This is genius because before you really couldn't fit too much gas inside of a thin 1911 magazine. You could really only shoot 1 to 2 magazines out before you had to recharge, and that second magazine you could barely get out. But with a full 12-gram CO2 capsule, you can get up to 4 or 5 different magazines out before you need to put another capsule in. This is a huge advantage. It does only hold your standard 1911 magazine capacity though, of 17 rounds, which isn't necessarily terrible or great. Now, as I've said plenty of times before, I prefer CO2 over green gas and propane. I live in the Great Pacific Northwest, so for most of the year, propane doesn't really work as it should. The cooldown factor is simply way too important for me to discard, whereas CO2 just kind of works and you really don't need to worry about it. CO2 is a much more reliable propellant, but this does not come without downsides. It doesn't have any silicone oil mixed with the CO2, so you need to make sure you clean your gun and lube it up more than usual, but you should be cleaning your gun after every game anyway, so this really isn't that big of a deal. The biggest downside is simply that CO2 is more expensive than going out and buying propane, which does kind of suck, but it's a worthy trade-off in my opinion. There seems to be a very common misconception that if you put CO2 into your gun, it will magically start shooting 500 feet per second or some equally ridiculous FPS. This couldn't be any farther from the truth. Every CO2 gas blowback I've ever chronoed has only averaged around 340 to 330 feet per second. This gun is no exception. It's very consistent at 340 feet per second, which is perfect. You can take this gun into any woodland field in almost all CQB arenas. The only arenas where this gun will not be allowed will be holding a very strict 330 feet per second policy. Now onto the part you guys want to hear. Is this gun worth your money? And should you buy it? I'm going to have to instantly say yes. KWC has always been my favorite gas blowback company, and they continue to impress me. This thing has incredibly good externals, the hardest kicking 1911 out on the airsoft market by far, it's incredibly accurate, and it fits a full 12-gram CO2 cartridge into a thin 1911 mag. This thing has pros all the way around. There is one downside to this gun, however. It's the fact that it does use KWC's design, which means that it's not compatible with Tokimori parts. So if you're the type that likes to buy a gun and really make it your gun, completely upgraded, put a ton of money into it, you're probably not going to like this gun. In my opinion, that's not really necessary. This gun outperforms most other pistols completely stock, and it's reliable enough to where you don't need to worry about if you can find extra parts if something breaks. If you came up to me and asked, what's the best 1911 for the price? This would be my immediate answer. This gun is only $95 to $100. That is incredibly affordable for what you're paying for. So once again, this is way worth your money, and is my preferred 1911 of choice. That's been my review of the KWC Colt 1911. Hope you guys have enjoyed it. and I'll see you guys next time.
The con's pretty much over now. We're all heading home. It was a pretty significant increase of penis. Well, there were more people, so kind of. Yeah, the quality was better, and I think they said there was about
Dicks.
What is with you and dicks? Okay, there was close to